Let's talk about what's happening with foreclosures. We also have fresh details on what's really important to today's buyers in this market, as well as how that's going to affect our inventory.
Plus, the top three reasons why affordability is improving. My name is Ming Richardson. I'm the compliance broker for Maximum One Realty and Realtor Partners.
My name is Alan Richardson. I'm the managing broker here at Maximum Realty Realtor Partners, and this is the real estate backstory. We do this every week, where we kind of go over the comings, the goings, all the things happening in the real estate market, and how that really impacts us here in the Atlanta area. So we kind of wanted to jump like right into what's going on in foreclosures. So there's some new data out which talks about the top 10 states that have the most mortgages underwater. And the good news is Georgia's not on that list.
Not it.
Okay, there is quite a few southern states that are in the list, and Louisiana is probably the worst one in the nation as far as properties or properties that are underwater. But honestly, if you think around, I don't think I know anyone that's upside down in their mortgage right now. So, overall, we always get a lot of inquiries about what's happening with the foreclosure market, what's going on with foreclosures, what's going on here and there, and when are we going to see all the foreclosures come back? We're not. At the same time, Adam also released the what percentage of our homeowners are equity rich, meaning that
49.2%.
almost half of our homeowners are equity rich, meaning that they have over 50% equity in their home on there. At the same time, the percentage of borrowers or property owners who are seriously underwater,
It's about 2.4.
and that's some of the lowest numbers we've ever had. Like even during pandemic, our numbers now are lower than they were.
In quarter three
Yeah,
of 2019, we're at 6.5.
yeah,
As of today, we're 2.4.
yeah.
Are there some foreclosure in the market?
There's
Absolutely.
always going to be some.
But the number does not equate.
Yeah. And if you look at the overall, like the first half of the year, just in the total number of foreclosures, back in 2010 when the foreclosure market was really going crazy, there was
Right, it's high.
like 1,000,006 foreclosures. And so there are this year so far there was 177,000 foreclosures, which is less than last year. And it is higher than it was during when the foreclosure moratoriums and those kind of things are going on, but it's down from where it was last year. We're never going to be as low as a time as when the moratoriums were going on, that kind of thing. But it really is really impactful to see that foreclosures are really not a big deal in our market. And I know that's one of those things that a lot of folks talk about wanting to see more foreclosures. And I get that. It really takes us back to talking about affordability.
Correct.
But if you look at why, why are we not seeing
But
foreclosures?
if you think about it, if you bought a house during foreclosure era, what was your fear? Your fear is that, well, if I bought this house today, would it be less tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
So, once again, we're not in that market, not right now, as of today, nor do we project that we'll be in that market anytime soon. Now, has the growth rate changed as far as appreciation? Yes, absolutely. And right now, according to NAR, we're about 5.5 million homes throughout the United States short.
Well, it really depends on who you're talking about, but how these tie together is the reason that foreclosures are so low is because we don't have enough housing, right? So National Association Realtor, they predict that we're short about 5.5 million. Zillow says the number is around 4.5 million. Moody's says it's around 3 million. Freddie Mac says about 1.5 million. So somewhere in that 1.5 million to 5 million, we're short that many households. And we can't build enough. At the same time, we have this huge millennial population that's all reaching first-time homebuyer age over these next 4 years. So when you say, why is there not foreclosures? Well, it's a supply versus demand issue. We have way more demand for housing. And we are seeing some changes go on right now in our market. But, one of the things that's really affecting demand at the moment is what's happening with
the
rates.
interest rate.
Yeah. I mean, like rates this week overall the rates went flat this week. So it's still 6.12, somewhere in that range. We're still seeing government loans that are, FHAs are coming in about half a point less than that.
It's
Some,
great.
which is really
It's
nice to
high
having,
fives.
in addition to that, we're having so many builders that are having just, just this past week, we had one builder who's offering a 2-1 buy down where it's 2.99, then 3.99, then staying at 4.99. We have another one that's offering a 4.99 for the
Permanent.
entire term of the loan. So, what's happening with these mortgage rates are really, really affecting demand. And even though they may not have moved much this week, just this past week, the Fed or like one of the big inflation gauges that they use, on the as far as like personal consumption expenditures index, which is a really long way of saying how much the goods that we buy, that dropped again. It's sitting at 2.2%, and that's a very good number. That's the lowest number it's been in 3 years. So it's really great to see that, because at the end of the day, 30-year mortgage rates end up following, inflation. The higher
Correct.
inflation is, the
The higher
high.
the interest rate is.
Exactly. Now, all this going on, obviously interest rates are important to our buyers. But one other thing that's come out recently here is like the other thing that's really, really important to buyers in our market right now is community. And that's one thing that we got to make sure that we understand, that if you really want to build a great rapport with a buyer, or for your buyers out there, they want to talk to, they want to work with a real estate professional that is connected, that understands what's going on inside a community, who really understands like what's going on with inventory, what's happening here, all the events going on, that kind of stuff. Connected communities is one of those big attributes for why people are attracted to us.
Well, if you think about it, it's like having your own village. When you're within a village, you feel love, you know everybody, and you can say hi, and you can associate, you can communicate. Nobody really wants, especially the Gen Xer and the baby boomer. They don't want to go to a place where they have to start all over again and not having a sense of what their daily routines, like exercising, whether or not it's a meeting, whether or not it's Tai Chi, whatever it is. Um,
I'm
you know,
obviously into Tai Chi.
yes, of
Yeah,
course
you
you
can
are,
see.
honey. But anyways, that piece of information is important to them, and they will actually move for that
Yeah.
community when they feel like they're part of something greater.
Now, the good news is that, for our buyers right now, and even for our sellers, because when you sell, you buy, affordability is improving. And so the National Home Housing Affordability Index, for the first time in almost 4 years, has actually moved in a positive direction. We're seeing where affordability is rapidly improving out there. Okay, maybe rapidly is the wrong word, but it is absolutely
It is
improving on
moving
here.
toward the right direction.
So overall, buying a starter home, especially right now, is cheaper than it was a year ago. We're so glad to
We're very
see
thankful.
see that that's going on now here in Georgia. What is how much do you have to make to be able to afford a starter home in Georgia?
$83,530 combined income or single income.
Yeah. Basically, if you want to buy a house, if you want to buy a starter home in the Atlanta area, as a family, you got to make 83 grand. 83 grand is kind of like that. That's your benchmark to kind of know. Now, does that mean that you can't buy if you make less than $83,000 in Georgia? No, but that means that you're going to be buying a property less than the average starter price. Now, the average starter price in our, for overall in most of Georgia is around 250, 265, somewhere in that range. Are there still some homes out there at 200? Some, but there,
They
like you.
are if you want to get a little more rural.
Mm-hmm.
There are opportunities out in that area. So if you don't mind, if you don't commute a lot, maybe you commute
Yeah.
twice a week, that might be a good route for you.
But for our buyers, this is a really good thing. Seeing that affordability is improving on there, and really, I mean, let's look at what are the three reasons why we're seeing affordability improve so much for our buyers right now. And the first thing is what we've been talking about already.
Mortgage rate
They're,
is down.
the mortgage rates are really making life man, they're making life sweet. They really we're very blessed to see what's going on with mortgage rates. Interest rates are moving in the in the right direction. And we're looking at that not only now but moving into next year. Well, the second reason why affordability is improving is we're seeing,
Home price are moderating.
yeah,
So we're not seeing a huge appreciation. We're seeing a very moderate appreciation at this time.
yeah. I mean, we're not looking at properties depreciate, largely because of what we were talking about before, as far as we still have more demand than we have housing to supply. Therefore, we're not going to see prices dropping off. Are we seeing them flatten? Yeah, you bet you we are.
And just remember, real estate is very local. So
Yeah,
what may happen here in Georgia may not apply to California or Washington.
yeah. Now, the third reason why we're seeing affordability improve is even though all these other things are going on, the average American right now is making more. Wages have been improving,
Absolutely.
increasing, I guess, and so that is really good to see. But now, for our buyers out there, one tip that we kind of want to throw out there is so there is a recent study done by the National Association of Realtors, and they said, on homes that are listed as being priced to sell, need to move, ready to go, like investor, specials and price to
Right.
move, price to sell is one of those big things. Guess what they found? It really is true. Listings that are listed as price to sell on average sell for an 8.5% discount under what properties
Fair
not
market
listed.
value.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
And what does 8.5% mean? It means almost $40,000 in
It's a lot.
savings. So when you see a listing listed as price to sell, those kind of things, that's a like you that should be like a really good, that should be a green flag. Red flag's probably the wrong
Absolutely.
word for it, but that should be a really
It should
uh,
be a green light to go.
yeah, yeah. So pay attention to that because the good news right now, depends on how you look at it, right, is that we have a lot of pent up demand for our sellers right now. In the first 8 months of this year so far, only 2.5% of all U.S. homes have changed hands. That is down significantly from where we are. What are historic
Pre-pandemic,
norms?
we were
Just
30% more.
yeah, I mean, like we're down 30% just on the number of homes that have changed hands this past year. Does that mean that people don't want to move?
Oh, they absolutely
No,
do.
no. Does that mean that nothing's going on in their life? They don't want to be next to the grandkids, these kind of things? They absolutely do. So we know that there's a lot of pent up demand. Now, for the homes that have moved, here's an interesting tidbit that we did want to share. The homes that are moving, suburban and rural areas, are moving more significantly, like a larger percentage of homes are moving in suburban and rural areas than in urban.
Well, during the pandemic,
OTP is
well,
winning right now, basically.
yeah. So
Now, overall as it stands, what does this mean for inventory, right? So overall, we're seeing where inventory is steadily increasing, right? And so what we've seen where new listings, active listings are both up significantly right now. Matter of fact, if you look nationwide across the U.S., there's actually 7 states that has higher inventory levels now than they had pre-pandemic, and so like those states are really like inventory is really up in those states. Guess what? Georgia's not one of them. We are still now. Are we seeing progress though? Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, we're absolutely seeing progress. So overall, here in Georgia, total inventory this year versus last year is up 49%. And
That's great
so,
inventory, guys.
look, and we've been begging for inventory, right? For especially for the last couple of years, like we just didn't have enough houses to sell, and so that created a market where the sellers basically could get whatever they want. That's not the market that we're in. So on one hand, yes, we have twice as many listings, basically, or half as many listings on the market today as we had this time last year. But where are we pre-pandemic? Like if you look at where we are versus our historical norms, that kind of stuff. If you think back pre-pandemic, it was still kind of a seller's market.
Correct.
So how much are we down from then?
So we're still down by 22%. So
Yeah,
even though we have 49% increase over last year, but compared pre-pandemic, we are down about 22%.
So we are moving towards a balanced market, but we're kind of moving there like a tortoise. Like we're just kind of
That's okay.
we're just kind of trucking along.
It keeps it what I consider a very healthy
Yeah,
market.
absolutely. That's really the key right there. Is we are moving to a balanced market. A balanced market is a like we see this being pretty special for most real estate professionals, right? Because most folks have not seen a balanced market. I mean, unless you've been in the business for a while, you haven't seen a
Hmm.
balanced
Right.
market. Like we haven't seen one since we came out of the pandemic. Because I mean, not pandemic, the 2007 2008 crash that we had. We reached a point where that was seriously a buyer's market then, and then we had a little period where we had a fairly balanced market, and then we moved almost really pretty quickly
To a
into a
seller's
seller's
market
market.
because interest rate was so low and it made housing affordability easy.
Yeah, and so for the last 10 years, it's been a buyer's market, and so now we're moving into a. I mean, I'm sorry,
Seller's
10 years.
market.
It's been a seller's market. So we are moving more rapidly right into a balanced market. Not as rapidly as I think a lot of people want to see it, but we are moving there, and so there's a transition for us to be able to assist our sellers as well as our buyers in being able to go through there, because you negotiate differently when you're in a buyer's market, both as a buyer as well as a seller, right?
Absolutely.
Sellers are not going to be able to just like take it or leave it. Well, they're going to leave it, right? And so for our buyers, are they going to be able to negotiate a little bit more? Yes. But are they going to be able to bargain for the moon? No, because that's not what it's a balanced market, is really where we're
Absolutely.
heading to, right?
And so, for those agents out there, if you are trying to bid on HUD Home, please make sure your broker is registered with HUDHomestore.com. If they're not registered, you cannot bid on it. And agents, go ahead and register yourself in there as well, just to make sure that when the time does come, you're already signed up.
Now, there's not many HUD homes to place offers on, but you know, please make sure if you did want to place offers, take your time to go ahead and get that thing set up right now. So Seth Wiseman came out and shared some information about what's coming up with our new GAR contracts for 2025 and some of the new changes that we should expect to kind of see them going through. And this is coming from direction from the National Association of Realtors to the Georgia Association of Realtors, which is going to the Forms Committee. And so there's really three main points that they want to make sure that are coming through that you can expect in the changes. Now, we're expecting a lot of changes for the 2025 GAR contract changes, but we're just trying to preface this with a few things of this is what we're hearing, this is what we're seeing, and so we're trying to prepare you out there. And so first thing is, the NAR settlement requires that all the agents are working with a buyer have a prior written agreement prior to any home tours, which is what we've already kind of known on there. Now, the second point is that the amount of compensation reflected must be objectively ascertainable and may not be open ended. So none of these things where,
Example,
yeah,
like this phrase, the buyer broker compensation shall be whatever the amount seller is offering to the buyer. So if the seller
that's
is
not okay.
offering zero, does that mean you work for zero? No, we don't. So please make sure you have your minimum and your maximum to cover the bonuses when you are dealing with new construction or incentives.
Yep. Now, the third big point here is that the realtor may not receive any compensation for brokerage services from any source that exceeds the amount agreed to in the agreement from the buyer. And so, really, what that's coming down to is there's two new change, maybe not new changes, the right word, but these are two things that you should expect to see in the GAR 2025 contracts. Is that from now on, the way that the buyer brokerage agreement is going to be written is that the buyer is going to be obligated to pay the entire broker's commission. Now it may or
Compensation.
compensation. I'm sorry, I'm still old school.
It's
We
okay.
still fight that. Sorry. So we want to make so they're making it clear that the buyer is the one who decides how much, or they negotiate with the buyer's agent, and they're responsible for making sure that the buyer's agent is paid. Now it can still be paid by the seller.
And
That's
the other
okay.
caveat was that any amount paid by the seller or the seller's broker, talking about co-op, must reduce the compensation obligation on behalf of the buyer. So if the seller's offering 3% and your compensation with the buyer is 3%, there's no more obligation from your buyer because that basically zeroed it out.
Well, and that's due to the way that the agreement is written right now. In there, there's a box which says like it will reduce the amount of compensation paid by the buyer or it will not reduce. Now they're taking that away. It will always reduce
Correct.
the compensation paid by the buyer. We think that's really, really fair. Now, one thing that in speaking of the NAR lawsuit kind of thing, there is a new opportunity that's kind of posed itself out here as a byproduct of the National Association of Realtors settlement, right? And so the bottom line is that consumers are starting to catch on about that we must have buyer brokerage agreements signed in advance. And what our prayer, honestly, is that you are doing business the right way, meaning you're setting appointments with buyers, you're providing value well in advance, you're going through these are all the services I provide, these are the fees that I charge, and you're getting buyer brokerage agreements signed. There are always going to be some folks that just going to show up and say, you know what, if you don't sign this form, I'm not going to let you see a house. You can't see this house if you don't sign this piece of paper. And I think that those are poor agents. I'm sorry, I don't think that like I don't want to work with someone, or the whole basis of you working with me is that I can force you to sign some agreement even though we don't have any relationship and you don't trust me. Yes,
But yeah, you're being strong-armed into signing something that because you want to see something.
yeah. So we are seeing where buyers right now are kind of leery of that. And so the very first tip here is please make sure that you are spending time to build relationships with your clients. Don't be that person who is going to force someone to, like sign this so I can show you a house. That's not the way we do business. These are the services I provide. This is all the value I'm bringing. And then that's how you get a buyer brokerage agreement signed. Now, here's where the opportunity is coming out is in open houses.
Correct.
Right? Because what we're seeing is just the overall activity level of open houses since we've had lower interest rates, and now since the NAR settlement, we have so many people that are wanting to stop by an open house now. We're seeing where those folks, and just in talking to people at open houses, they're like, well, this is just a non-committal way for me to stop in and be able to look at this house without having to sign some piece of paper. I can come and look at this house without having to sign a piece of paper. Now, for those of you who are doing open houses, this is a great opportunity to build some rapport, to build a relationship, to provide value for clients well in advance. Because if you're going to go out and show them that property, you will need a signed buyer brokerage agreement. But you can do an open house because that open house is to the benefit of the seller. Right. So be looking at what a positive opportunity open houses is right now. Like overall, a lot of our consumers do not have any idea about an NAR settlement. They don't even know what NAR stands for. Those kind of things are definitely of no impact out there at all. But we do have some where this is an issue.
That are well informed. So when they're well informed, please let them know the truth, not what they hear over the internet.
Yep. All right. Well, we hope that you guys have a great week. If we can be any kind of service, please call, text, smoke signals. Call, text, and smoke signals. I can't quite get that out. You can also catch all of our details down below. We teach a lot of continuing education classes. You can find all of our training at mx1training.com. That's mx, the number one, training.com. I hope you have a great week.
Thank you and have a great day.
Bye-bye.